Well, welcome everyone to this wonderful launch of Feyisola Adetunji's book, The Protocol Advantage. I am your MC this morning, Zachary Cochran. I'm the founder and coach at Cochran Coaching LLC. And I have the privilege of interviewing and introducing Feyisola. So Feyisola, you have this wonderful book that you've written on protocol and the advantage that it gives. I would love to have you introduce a little bit more of yourself, if you don't mind, for our audience today, as well as I'll have some questions for you about the book that you've written. So
All right.
If you don't mind, go ahead and just, tell us about your book.
All right. Okay. Thank you, Zachary, and distinguished guests and friends and family that are here today to witness this occasion. I'm so grateful that you all are here. And about my book, The Protocol Advantage, this book was written purposely to serve professionals in protocol practice, at the same time to also serve business owners, leaders, students. So this book cut across, and then it's been a long-term investment that I've been doing for quite some time, a couple of years. Yeah, it took me almost 3 years to get this book ready. So, and about myself, my name is Feyisola Adetunji, and I have done a lot in international protocol practice. I am the founder and CEO of Cranesta International. Many of our clients, have opportunities of understanding well what we call, cultural intelligence and cross-border initiatives and all that. So those are the things that we've been working on for quite some time now. And then very soon we're going to be also launching a lot of initiatives. Thank you, Zachary.
Of course, thank you. Now, if you don't mind, may I have the copy of your book here? And I already have a signed copy of the book I'm very pleased to have. I'll just formally read Feyisola's bio. Feyisola Adetunji is an internationally respected protocol strategist, diplomatic engagement expert, and global public affairs advisor with nearly 2 decades of high impact experience across government, corporate, and multilateral sectors. Founder and CEO of Cranesta International. He's advised leaders worldwide on cultural intelligence, which is a huge part, chapter 6, I believe, of your book, executive presence, and professional conduct in global spaces. So that's the short version of your bio, but I wanted to make sure that we had that read. And if you don't mind, I'd like to ask you a few questions.
Yeah, let's go ahead. Thank you.
Very good. So you've said that your goal in writing this book was simple but profound: to create a practical, globally applicable guide that equips professionals to navigate an interconnected world with confidence and cultural intelligence. And by the way, the subtitle of your book is The Executive Guide to Professional Conduct in Global Spaces.
Correct.
So it is the guide for everyone here. I think what's remarkable is that the response that you've had to this book suggests that the mission is resonating far beyond your initial expectations. So let me begin here. When you reflect on the global uptake of this book, from students to educators to practitioners, what does that tell you about the current moment in protocol and leadership?
All right, thank you for that question. That's a good question, Zachary. This book was actually written purposely because I understand there was a gap. And this gap was basically about professionals who are experts, who are extremely intelligent and brilliant in what they do. But I observed they lack this opportunity of relating well, with international community in most cases. So I've observed that when you have a business set up and you are so successful in what you do, but there is need for you to also connect internationally. And that's why we talk more about global engagement. And how do you do it professionally? So this book, is really bridging that gap. And the gap of, do you need to understand what we call cultural intelligence? And this will always help you to thrive and also help you to expand, your businesses. So this happens to be the major focus on this book. And if you see, chapter 6 covers a lot on cultural intelligence, which I feel young professionals, diplomats, protocol practitioners should also learn more about. So, and in writing this book, I was so much concerned about accessibility, because what I want people to be able to access this book. So I took my time to make sure that this book is simplified, and then people can easily access it, regardless of who you are and then where you're coming from and the orientation as regards protocol. So I work so much more to ensure that protocol is demystified, it's simplified for people to understand. So in this context, protocol becomes, something more systematic, that people can always engage in. So it becomes more humane as to, how you relate with people, and then how do you ensure success or successful engagement, that pertains to what you are doing. So I understand that people are extremely successful, they're extremely brilliant, but they need to understand that in relating with people, you need to have clarity, you need to have confidence, and then you need to be, more exceptional in what you do. And the only way you could do that is to understand what we call cultural intelligence, and it's much more in this book. So, and another thing is that this book also dealt with, lived experiences. And what does that mean? I focus more on things that are more lively, things that people have done in the past, and then things that are really going on now. So it makes, the whole world to resonate with the book, because it's really bringing out, concurrent context that people are able to relate with. So this is really, it's not something like a vague book that was written, based on just ideas, but this is based on, lived experiences. The one I had as a professional, and the one I've seen leaders also experience, diplomatic leaders, business leaders, and also religious leaders as well. So everything is in this book, The Protocol Advantage. Thank you for your question.
Yeah, absolutely. And, it's interesting because while I'm not a professional in the protocol space as you are, I only know of one other book in the space at all. So for you to write a definitive guide for people here is, I think, so significant. I have a follow-up question for you. You chose to delay the publication and to continue refining the manuscript, adding research. You mentioned that lived insight, practical application, and that decision suggests something important about your standards. So what was the gap that you felt, needed closing before you were willing to release this book into the world? And specifically, how did that extra time change the final shape of your book?
All right. Thank you for that question. I understand it's very much important for whatever that is coming out from me, to also exceed standards. So, and there was a need for me to also revisit my manuscript so that I can embed it with, relevant information that people can resonate with. So I saw at that point in time that there was not much of lived experiences in my context. So I went back, I reviewed it, and then I made it perfect. And that's why it's a wow document right now everywhere, and it's going global because people are resonating with it, because I've been able to, embed in it a whole lot of lived experiences, because we're getting feedback. And this feedback are positive feedback as to how the book has really been impacting them, even students, at the same time, protocol practitioners, because we are able to reach, we're able to do a lot of deep research, to really come up with some of the components that we're seeing in the book today and what people are really resonating with. So in the context of this book, the lived experiences information that are there are very much relevant to every individual who wants to make progress in whatever thing they're doing, especially when they transact internationally, and then when they are also positioned to, engage globally. So this book has been able to provide such kind of opportunity for them to learn more those relevant skills that they need, to thrive.
Yeah, thank you. And a follow-up question on that, you write from direct experience at the intersection of diplomacy, corporate leadership, and public service, which, by the way, I remember you telling me that you would write in even like current events that were happening as you were writing the book. So it's very much timely and up to date as well. At what point did those experiences stop feeling episodic and start forming a united framework for how protocol actually functions in global spaces?
All right, so thank you for that question. As an international protocol consultant, I've had access to opportunity of traveling, across the globe. So some of these experiences, kept resonating within me. And I felt there was a need for me to really put something down as regards those experiences that I've had. So I've had opportunity of, traveling to places where we received, a very amazing welcome, where we were welcomed, with all pageantries. And I've also visited, places where it was the other way around. So some of these experiences, I brought all of them together to really write this book, because you discover that protocol, to some people is different. Some people are able to observe the nuances and also deliver what it's supposed to do, and then in the right manners, while some other, others are unable to also deliver that. And that's why I felt there's need for them to have a resource like this to teach them, and then to also encourage them, to thrive, in professional environment, so that people can be treated with, good courtesy, which I think it's very much important for us, especially we live in an interconnected world.
Yeah.
There's no way you do anything now that you're not connected to a whole lot of people out there. So your success, your expertise has escaped, your location. Because right now, a lot of people have transacted internationally today. You've spoken to people in India, in Ghana, in Africa, in Asia, and all that. So that is the essence of you having the conviction that at this point in time, you need to learn those skills that will help you grow your business better, that will help, maintain a very good business relationship with your business partners, and at the same time, that will also help you to thrive in global environments. That's the focus. And this book is resonating worldwide. Thank you.
Yeah, wonderful. I would say one last question for you. If your book is being used, like you mentioned, across continents and in classrooms, in leadership programs, diplomatic training, and even in corporate environments, thus the executive guide, right? Professionals are applying it in real time, and students are using it as a foundation text. So what do you believe is driving that level of universality and accessibility? And were you consciously writing for that breadth of audience, or did it emerge organically?
All right, I'll say both. It emerged organically because of what I saw as a practitioner, of protocol. Because when you engage so much more in what we do, you will come to the realization that people need to learn more. People need to add more to their skills. People need to understand and be more conscious of the importance around, engagement. And that purposely was what has been written in this book, and this has also bridged the gap. And that is why the students are seeing it as a good resource to work with. Institutions are also, taking a look at it, and they're also working with my book right now. I'm getting a whole lot of feedback internationally. Students are so excited to read my book. Leaders are also excited as well. Diplomats, corporate leaders, business owners, they're finding it as a good resource for them to grow, in their different areas. And I mentioned the other time, I said, your skill is not enough until you understand how to relate with people. How do you relate with people? Not ordinary people, but not ordinarily, but engaging more meaningfully. At the same time, having at the back of your mind the cultural sensitivity of others as well, because that is the basis of this book, and that is what it's addressing. Normally, we'll be talking about, when we talk about protocol, we're talking about, rigidity, like we're talking about events, order, organizing stuff and all that. But in this context, we've been able to revamp the whole thing, to ensure that it is more humane and people are able to relate with it. That when you treat your business partners nicely, it gives you an opportunity of expansion. When you network internationally, you need some skills to do that. So, and most of the time, I've mentioned it, that sometimes in American context, there's what we call sarcasm, right? That means sometimes when you're doing something wrong, they still tell you, that's amazing, that's great. I've seen that happen several times. Even when you are doing, what you are doing is not giving you, like, it's not perfect enough. Instead of saying, that is not perfect, that is not nice, right, they're going to say, awesome, that's fantastic. So that's what we call sarcasm, right? But in some cultures, that doesn't exist. You have to just say it straight. You say, excuse me, no, that is not appropriate. But here you see situations where people talk about things and then they start to say, wonderful, that's great, while it's not great.
That's right.
It's called sarcasm. I addressed it. It's in my book as well. So some of these things are things like, and I usually say too that if you're writing, Zachary, if you're writing an email to me and you say, hey, Feyisola, so you're sending to an American, Nigeria, or let's say from Africa, somebody who's a billionaire in Africa, and you say, hey, for example, Dangote. And then Dangote will go, what do you mean? You say, hey, That means, that's a little bit disrespectful.
Yeah.
But it's the norms here.
Right.
But when you understand that you are dealing with somebody different, right?
Mm.
With different background, and you're able to use the courtesy to address the person. You are more conscious about what is going on. You are more conscious about your dealings. That means you are a refined person. You've added value to yourself in doing so. It's not because of what you know alone. It's not because of your expertise, but you've gone beyond and above that to acquire skills that is making you thrive. So recently, King Charles III was visited by the president from Nigeria, and the king used a slang that Nigerians usually use on the president, just to captivate, the event, and it was fantastic.
Wow.
He said, Nigeria no dey carry last. What does that mean? It means that Nigerians don't stay behind. They always up front. And the old king, who is, a United Kingdom person, used such words just, to ensure diplomatic smoothness, some kind of engagement, and that boosted the relationship. There was a lot of things that happened. People resonated with it. There was a lot of news event, around it as to what the king said.
Yeah.
That brings about connection immediately. And that's what we want to see happening. And that's what, as a business owner, that's what you want to see happen. You want to connect with people.
Yeah.
You don't just want to toil and work and struggle on your own, in your space. But when you extend your tentacles, definitely people across the world will come near you. So this book is not just an ordinary book. It's a book that is written to go far and above everywhere in the world. And it's very applicable to every situation. And I see business owners, I see professionals, I see diplomats, I see protocol professionals, I see leaders using it effectively. And I've gotten a lot of feedback on it.
Wow.
Thank you.
Well, thank you so much, Feyisola. And you heard it from the author himself of The Protocol Advantage. This is a wonderful textbook, a guide, the executive guide to professional conduct in global spaces. Thank you for being here today. I'm so glad that you are participating in his official book launch. And as Feyisola goes to have his book signing, I hope that you'll pick up a copy and that you'll be able to enjoy this book as much as you enjoyed writing it.
Exactly.
So,
thank you, Zachary.
With that, a round of applause, please.
Thank you for having me. I'm so grateful. Thank you, everyone, for being here.